The master bedroom, Grandma's room, is where I lie down and indulge my mania, staring at the ceiling made of some material that looks like it was painted with a stiff layer of meringue, white with peaks and shapes, all different. There are shapes and patterns and objects to be seen in the ceiling. I would let it entertain me for hours. My grandma is the only person I never felt lonely around. She was simply the only person who found me worth the time and effort to look past the oddness and mania and temper and ADHD and mouthiness and selfishness and immaturity and all of my flaws to find exactly the person she knew she'd see. Me. One kindergarten afternoon in late fall, I'm struggling with my homework. There's a word I just can't get. It's a word that, according to my teacher, I'm supposed to know because we already learned it last week. At 5.5 years old, I struggle to read and to retain the few things I seem capable of absorbing. Nothing sticks longer than a few days, and I don't get this method of learning by rote and phonics, memorizing a word without understanding why it is the way it is. I know a thing in a moment. I know a word. And when that moment passes, I forget. This abstract concept of reading ceases to be real or to mean anything to me beyond that moment. My mother has had enough. She told me that I'd be better making some kind of headway. I'd better have gotten beyond this one word I already learned before she gets home in the evening. I'm pretty sure that when my mom gets home, I'll be getting a spanking over a 4-letter word. I'm freaking out, of course. I don't want a spanking over a word, especially not a 4-letter one. My grandma takes pity on me and tries to pep talk me into literacy. Tells me all that good, loving grandmother stuff about how I can do it because I'm smart. Even though I'm frustrated, I can't give up. If we'd grown up together, Grandma and I would have been fast, troublesome friends, playing pranks and laughing and bailing each other out of scrapes, just happy to be together whenever we could be. I've never felt that with anyone else, let alone so keenly. My grandma felt like a gift to me, and I felt like I was a gift to her. Take a couple minutes to walk away and come back and look at it with fresh eyes, Grandma advises me. Think about the letters a little differently and see what happens. I shamelessly beg her to just tell me that I'm not getting it on purpose, that if I could get it, I would, but I can't. That word makes no sense. I know I'm going to get a spanking, not because of that word, but because of months of me not getting easier words that actually do make what little sense I can comprehend about reading and phonics. This spanking will not be over one word, but over all of them. That will be the consequence I've earned for taking too long to learn and making everyone wait on me to smarten up. Rarely have I felt stupider, more useless, and more like a waste of skin. Finally, my grandma sighs and says, "The word is talk." In this moment, I am reset. Like a computer that had been running bad programming, my grandmother runs recovery with those 2 words. And I boot up nice and clean and with the most useful and momentous paradigm shift I've ever had. As best I can tell, I learned 3 things in that moment that a nearly 6-year-old can clearly and cleanly grasp. The simplest looking things are often the hardest and or the worst. Everything people do and can learn is a door. Some of these doors are already half or even wide open when we get there. Some are shut. Some have a lock. As the smartest of all the apes, it's our human job to find the keys. Finding the keys is often the hardest thing. And 3, English as a language is a bullshit or be bullshitted premise. The language is a hodgepodge of structure as if it was never meant to make a goddamn bit of salient sense and never expected to need to. Thus, to get good at anything English, it takes learning to roll with the chaos and make it into an order that works for me. Make it conform to the way my brain works. If the person who invented the spelling of talk could get away with that nonsense, then I could take this ridiculous language and bend it too. Loosen it up with time and with practice. It's my second year of school, and I'm struggling with another word. The word 8. The annoyed teacher is sick of me racking my brain and tells me so pretty contemptuously. I feel disgusted by language and spelling, having to do it for grades and approval just to keep myself out of trouble. I hate it. But then I start to find things besides the TV guide that are worth reading. Stories and poems. The crap from the primers about the kids and their dumb dog going to the store to buy milk is boring. But books with fiction, fantasy, cute little poems, and songs that can be sung to the tunes of songs I already know, these are amazing. Books about alien teachers and Puritan witches and telepathic cats and random pilgrim girls living with Indian tribes are amazing. And after that comes Hans Christian Andersen, Aesop's Fables, The Brothers Grimm. YA novels such as The Witch of Blackbird Pond, Island of the Blue Dolphins, Girl in Buckskin, The Star Cat World, Wolf by the Ears, etc. Language and its rules, which I would later come to appreciate as some of the structural elements that hold stories together, was worthwhile because of stories. Stories make everything about language that is stupid and fiddly and boring and mean and hateful less so, and then eventually not at all. By the time my grandmother started getting noticeably sick and going in and out of the hospital when I was in 5th grade, books had become my distraction, my escape, my savior. The autumn after my grandmother died, I started 6th grade in a Catholic school, and the only way I made it through was with lots of YA sci-fi fantasy. I read the entire My Teacher is an Alien series. I started reading Stephen King, Anne Rice, Octavia Butler. But it was my grandma who changed my mind about reading. Without her initial intervention, I'd never have had books the way I did and still do. I would never have made it to that second challenge door, the door labeled EIGHT, 8. If she hadn't helped me with that first door. I don't know who I would be without her intervention or her love. I think the way I loved looking at my grandmother's ceiling was the way my grandmother loved looking at me. She may have seen tons of imperfections, but even more possibilities. Roads to be traveled and adventures to be had, even without leaving the house. Maybe she saw endless amazing dreams and fantastic possibilities and potential. Maybe she saw a million stories and wanted to know all the beginnings and all the middles and all the ends, because she thought I was amazing and fantastic too. Or maybe she wanted to know simply because I was hers and she loved me. And sometimes that's how love works, when it works. Maybe that's what I meant to her, love that worked consistently and well and without hurting, at least until the day she told me she was dying. Maybe she thought that I had the potential to be and do anything at all and was happy for, proud of, and excited not just to see what I do with that potential, but also simply excited to see me. Because that's also how love works, when it works. I'd like to think and believe all of these things. Maybe someday I will.